Welcome to State of the World with me, Sally Lockwood in Dubai. We're just jumping on to talk about the horrifying shooting at Bondi Beach, which has so far claimed the lives of 15 people. Journalist Ryan Heath is joining me to discuss everything that he knows so far from Australia. Ryan, formerly of Politico, formerly of Axios, and in Australia at the moment during this horrific time. Hey, Ryan.
Hi, Sally. I wish we were here under better circumstances. It
Honestly,
is a really horrible day.
Ryan, I don't swear on this podcast, but I really feel like swearing. I just can't believe what I'm seeing. WTF, you know, this is somewhere that so many people know. I mean, I used to live in Bondi. My brother lives in Australia. He works in Sydney. You know, I was just on the phone to him a minute ago and he said, you know what Bondi's like, it's tiny, everyone knows everyone. It's a Sunday evening, everyone's down at the beach, having a few beers, catching the last surf, enjoying the evening. And then two gunmen opened fire on what was a packed park with Jewish people celebrating Hanukkah. I mean, tell me what you know so far.
I mean, it's astonishing, the lack of serious police presence at the event. Even before October 7, Jewish communities were always on high alert about where they gathered and how much notice they gave the people gathering at an event, because they knew there were risks. And that obviously escalated over the past 2 years. So the idea that these gunmen were able to operate for fully 9 minutes before they were brought under control by a shopkeeper, no less, not the actual police service of New South Wales. There are a lot of questions to answer there. And Australia has very strict gun laws. How a man who was under suspicion of being involved in ISIS could continue to maintain his firearms license, like, that's another extraordinary question that needs to be answered. And we need to remind people that the state of New South Wales is a state that has had very regular neo-Nazi and pro-Palestinian protests over the past few months. And I'm not meaning to conflate anything here, but when you have two groups that can be very opposed to what the Jewish community stands for, represents, and expresses itself, the idea that you don't have a police presence at this event is frankly crazy.
Was there no police presence there? I read that they were in the area. No, there was an increase.
Yes, in the area,
but not at the event.
I've been in much less serious situations where you have an anti-terror squad, or you have heavily armed people who are involved in securing a property or a group of people. I don't think that was present yesterday. Maybe we'll learn more. We're still learning new things every minute, and I stress I wasn't physically on the ground there. But it took 45 minutes for ambulances to reach some of the wounded, and the gunman was able to operate sort of for more than 9 minutes. So whatever happened, it wasn't enough. And the government has received many warnings about the rise of anti-Semitism and steps that need to be taken to combat that. They, of course, say they'll do whatever it takes, but the question has to be asked, did they not do enough?
Yeah, before we get into the rise in anti-Semitism, which is just so depressing and is a problem not just in Australia, but in many European countries and in America as well, let's talk about a bit more about what happened. So my brother was on the phone to someone who was 10 meters away from the gunman, one of the gunmen, sitting outside a restaurant in Bondi. And he ran into the restaurant and hid inside the kitchen for an hour because, as you say, it took so long to get the situation under control. And in the meantime, this heroic guy who owns a fruit shop in Bondi, his name is Ahmed Al-Ahmed, 43-year-old man, father of two, bravely, unarmed, goes up and manages to wrestle one of the rifles from one of the gunmen. Let's just have a look at the video. It's absolutely extraordinary. This video offers some real hope. There are more good people than bad people in the world by a country mile, and he is one of the best and one of the bravest. And do you know there's a GoFundMe page that's been set up for him since, and it's, at the time of recording, it's nearly $1 million. Can you imagine that? I think there's just been an outpouring of love, respect, and admiration for this man, this beacon of hope in this
We have an
dark
award
time.
called Australian of the Year here in Australia, and if this man doesn't get it, then he's been robbed, because it's extraordinary. And to emphasize the danger that he put himself in, the second man who comes into the video after the gun has been wrestled from the assailant, that man ends up getting shot. So our hero was in grave danger. That's very clear. And that's the definition. Yeah, could easily have been killed. That's the definition of bravery.
Totally. And someone else I spoke to in Australia, I thought this was a really interesting sentiment. He said to me, thank F this hero was Muslim. He said, because it instantly diffuses this idea of it being one side against another, or any sort of moronic theory, or any potential threat of repercussion. That actually, he said to me, these were just two racist psychos who carried out this attack. And I think what is so shocking, Ryan, is that, as you say, one of them that we know of, they were a father and son, I should say. They've been named. The father was killed. The son is in hospital. There's reports that there were ISIS flags found on their vehicle. And also reports, which may have been confirmed, let me know, that the father was on the radar of the security services in Australia.
Yes, he was under surveillance for 6 months in 2019, suspected to be part of an ISIS terror plot plan. So I think the sort of action that you will see, possibly through an emergency convening of the federal parliament before the Christmas break, they'll be recalled to Canberra potentially, something has to be done around the idea that if you can put people on a terror watch list, but allow them to legally have 6 firearms in their possession, maybe that's something people could get away with under the Second Amendment in the United States. But in a country such as Australia that prides itself on not having had a mass shooting in 29 years, where the gun laws are deliberately very strict, that's clearly the sort of loophole that is going to have to get closed. And our assailants were training at a shooting centre in Sydney, which is where you would expect someone with a licensed firearm to be using. So there's going to be questions as well there about what they were doing, how they were monitored, and should anything have been reported during the 10 or more years that they had this gun licence.
The huge question now for so many in the Jewish community worldwide is, where are they? Where can they feel safe? Because we have seen an increase in the number of attacks like this. This one being the worst and the most shocking, but there's been an attack on a synagogue in Manchester where people were killed. There's been an attack in Washington, D.C. against members of the Jewish community. And interestingly, when I was last in Jerusalem a few weeks ago, I was speaking with an Australian Jewish man who was visiting Israel. He was on holiday visiting friends, and I stopped to talk to him in the old city. We met outside a coffee shop, and he said to me, I'm so depressed by what I'm seeing. And he was talking about the situation in Europe and the situation in Australia. And he said, if you look at the anti-Israel sentiment in France and the anti-Israel sentiment in Spain, the UK, he said, mark my words, you are going to see a mass exodus of Jewish people from these countries coming to Israel, not because they want to, but because they need to. And that really stopped me in my tracks.
I have a friend who did this already, the exact same thing, where his family had counselled him not to move to Israel, worried that he wouldn't be safe if he did so. And now his viewpoint is, well, I'm not safe in Bondi, so why would I not at least go home to Israel? It's distressing where you have someone who could survive the Holocaust, someone who could survive the October 7 attacks in Israel, and both of those individuals end up dead on the beach in Bondi.
Oh my God.
There's just
Actually,
no
let's
words.
listen to this clip. Yeah. Let's just quickly listen to this clip from this guy who spoke to Sky News Australia.
I survived October 7th. I lived in Israel the last 13 years. We came here only 2 weeks ago to work with the Jewish community, to fight anti-Semitism, to fight this bloodthirsty, ravaging hatred.
That's why you're here.
That's why I'm here. We've lived through worse. We're going to get through this, and we're going to get the bastards that did this.
Tell me, did you see the gunman?
I did. I saw at least one gunman firing, looked like a shotgun, firing randomly in all directions. I saw children falling to the floor, so elderly, I saw invalids, I saw people just, it was an absolute bloodbath, blood gushing everywhere. October 7th, that's the last time I saw this.
So there you go, Ryan. That man survived October the 7th in Israel, then he finds himself in a mass shooting on Bondi Beach.
And now, I don't want to speak of silver linings, that would be the wrong word, but I do believe that because this happened in such an iconic location, it's something that shakes Australians and their sense of identity to its core. So anyone who might have been on the fence, anyone who might have been splitting hairs or worried that they would offend this group or the other if they were going to take too strong an action to protect the Jewish community, I think the fact that Australia has been attacked to its core will lead to serious action. The people who have been urging serious action on anti-Semitism now have the space to fully make their case. And I think there's a lot of Australians who are listening.
And just describe to me the sort of mood in the country today, Ryan. How
Very
are
worried.
feeling?
People were glued to their televisions last night, obviously. One of my oldest friends in the world, her daughter has just graduated from university and lives at Bondi. Her 22-year-old daughter, that woman's 4-year-old stepbrother was there with his mother at the beach where it happened. So you've got people obviously hundreds of miles away, and this is the way it works with any tight-knit community. Somebody knows somebody.
Yeah.
And my friends that I just referred to weren't Jewish, but they were just people enjoying Bondi Beach. Mm-hmm. So everybody knows somebody who was there, who was affected, because there were tens of thousands of people in the vicinity when it happened.
My brother, another person that he knows, rushed down to the beach because his 4-year-old niece was on the beach, and you just think it really brings it home, because it is a beach that is always packed with families and packed with kids. And most people who've been to Australia have been to Bondi Beach. Most people who've lived in Australia have probably lived around Bondi Beach because it's such a popular spot in the eastern suburbs where backpackers, there's a lot of backpackers. When I was in my early 20s, I lived in Bondi. And it's hard to imagine something so awful unfolding on such an iconic, beautiful, happy place. And I guess will people feel the same about it? Yeah, it's going to hang over it for a long time.
Eventually they will, because what you don't want to do is let terrorists win. So this same family I was referring to, who got caught up there, they were having their Christmas party. It's planned for Thursday at the Bondi Icebergs Club, which is the iconic club at one end of the beach. And they're worried that no one will want to celebrate. And then I just said, well, but how can you punish this business because of what the terrorists did? So maybe you change the nature of the gathering, but you can't punish the people that live and depend on Bondi because of what these two unhinged people did. Life has to go on. That's the only way that you can respond to terrorism, as tough as that can feel sometimes. So yes, I think it will make Australians on high alert. Yes, I think it's going to lead to a lot more surveillance. You now have police guarding 382 Jewish sites and communities right now. And so the question is, why weren't they being guarded before the attack if there was such a danger? So lessons will be learned. Lessons are being learned.
Ryan, we have seen a rise in the number of these sorts of anti-Semitic attacks. It's absolutely horrifying. And I received a message from a Jewish friend this morning who said to me, I'm so sick of this shit. And I think it's worth remembering that Jewish people around the world are experiencing a sense of vulnerability right now, and a sense of fear. And they already have to endure security at schools and security at events. And things just seem to be getting worse. And we should all be checking in on our Jewish neighbours today. No one wants to see history repeat itself. And what we're seeing right now is deeply, deeply worrying.
I 100% agree. Human rights are human rights, and it doesn't matter what your view of the Israeli government is. Jewish people have the right to live their lives, to have free expression, to gather at events like Hanukkah by the Sea at Bondi Beach. And we have to affirm that. And so, yes, affirm it with your neighbours, affirm it on your social media, and affirm it wherever you can. Otherwise, you're letting the terrorists win.
Ryan, thanks so much. I'll see you soon. Thanks for joining us again.
Thanks, Sally.
such an awful thing to be discussing, but hopefully next time I see you, it'll be about something slightly more positive.
But such a good sentiment to end on. It's exactly the right note. You give people something they can practically do in their life. So.
Thanks, Ryan, and thanks to you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the conversation with Ryan, please hit subscribe. It's completely free and it helps the channel grow, which is completely independent. There's no media company behind us. It's just me, my microphone, and brilliant people like Ryan joining us for interesting conversations and important conversations. So we'll be back again soon, and take care of yourselves. Thanks for watching.